Hi guys, quick video today about home value and more specifically how to think about it. How to think about your home value is very important because most people don't think about it correctly. They get distracted by things that don't matter, or they take things that do matter and they transpose it into home value. And if you understand how to kind of properly categorize things, it really helps you think about it properly. And at the end of the day, if you know how to think about it properly, it gives you a lot of confidence when you're buying or selling a piece of property, and it can help avoid problems. And in particular, it can help you from letting your emotions and the emotional reactions you'll get to the process will sort of be more manageable. And so here's how to think about it. I'll first give you a list of things that are not home value, but a lot of people think these things are home value. That's why they're important. You got to understand that they're not. These things are not home value. And I'm going to say some stuff here that people are going to look at me sideways and they're going to go, what? That I thought that's what home value was. No. And I'll explain. Just hang with me here. So number one, home value is not the estimates you see on your favorite real estate website or your favorite real estate app on your phone. Those numbers are estimates of value. They're opinions of value. They're not value. Okay, here's another one. This might shock a couple people. Appraisal reports, right? If you pay a real estate professional called an appraiser to write an opinion of value, and it comes to you on a piece of paper that's called an appraisal report. Okay, that's an opinion of value. It's not value. And just because there's an appraisal report doesn't mean that buyers have to pay that price and sellers have to accept it. That's not the value. It's an opinion of value, and it's very important, and it serves an important function, but it's not the value. What other things can I think of? Here's one. There's two houses around the corner that sold that are like your house, and they sold last month. Is that so? People say, "Oh, that's the value." No, it's not. It's very important though, because it tells us what buyers and sellers were willing to transact property for recently. So it's very important, but it is not the value. And just because the neighbor around the corner sold a house for $500,000 does not mean that you are entitled to $500,000 for your house. And if you're buying property and you see that, it doesn't mean you're obligated to pay that. That's hard for people to understand. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the harsh reality of the situation is that comparable sales are very important for very specific reasons, but they are not value. Okay, here's another one that will shock some people probably. List price. Okay, the seller is selling their house, they put a price on it, and everybody goes, oh, look, it's listed for $500,000. That's not the value of the house, but a lot of sellers think it is, and they think that they're entitled to that or something close to that, and they sort of get emotionally invested in that value, that estimate of value. And then when they don't get that number, they feel bad. And this is what I talk about, managing your emotions. So the bid of a buyer is not the value, right? It's very important. Okay, the ask, the list price, very important, not the value. Okay, appraisal reports, not the value. Comps down the street, not the value. Your real estate apps, all those estimates of value, those are not value. Okay, all of those things are very, very important, and they have a specific function. They're important in different ways. Certainly, without a doubt, they play into the minds of buyers and sellers, and they impact value quite a lot, but they are not value. Here's what value is. Okay, it's a three component format. All three parts of value have to be present for it to be value, and it's not value until you have all three of them present at closing. Okay, here's the three. Number one, it is what a buyer is willing to pay. Okay, you don't have value until a buyer's willing to pay that price. And probably the most predictive thing of what of actual value is what a buyer is willing to put down. If a buyer's willing to write a check, that's going to be a big part of value. Number two is what a seller's willing to accept. As important as what a buyer's willing to pay is, it doesn't count for anything if a seller won't accept it. Okay, so those two things have to be present. They must both be present together. So in order to get to value, you got to know what a buyer is willing to pay and what a seller is willing to accept. The third part is right now. It's not enough that a buyer was made an offer on the property in January and the seller was willing to accept it today. It has to be right now, because the January offer means nothing today. Okay, it's today, it's right now. And those three things have to be present all together, and they got to track down the escrow timeline from the moment the offer is accepted all the way to the closing table, and bam. And at that instant, and only for that instant, you have home value. The very next moment, you may not have the same dynamic as you did just now. So at the moment that the property transfers from one party's ownership to the other party, then you have home value, and you have what a buyer's willing to pay and what a seller's willing to accept right now. That at that moment you have home value. The very next instant, it doesn't exist anymore. But what we have now is a record of a transaction, a comparable sale in some cases, and we have an indication of what buyers and sellers are willing to accept. But all bets are off now, and you got to start over, and you got to get a new group of buyers and a new group of sellers on a new group of properties at different moments in time, and you got to do it all again. So how does this affect buyers and sellers? This is a little postscript to help you, because I've explained what is value, how to think about it, and what is not value. I've explained that there. You can go back and rewatch it. But the main thing to remember, if you're buying a piece of property, is you got to make your offer such that a seller will say yes to it, and it will exist all the way to the closing table. That's the kind of offer that you want to make. If you're a seller, you got to offer your house in a way that you'll get that kind of an offer, right? And you got to be realistic about it. When there's a big gap between what buyers and sellers are willing to pay, we've seen a lot of that lately, and it's why there's fewer transactions happening. And when there's what we call a spread, a big spread between the bid and the ask. The bid is what the buyers are willing to pay. The ask is what the sellers are willing to accept, or what they say they're willing to accept. If there's a big gap there, it's going to be tough to make a deal. So both buyers and sellers need to remember that at the end of the day, the other side of the transaction has to be willing to go through with it. And if you just kind of keep that in mind and build your strategy around it, it makes things a lot easier. And that's home value, and that's how to think about it. I hope that's useful for you. Have a nice day.